Okay, so we have Yale's C team against Northwestern's B team. The players have started. This is Darren Ding versus Kim Stud, who is also streaming. Sorry if I'm distracted. I'm trying to make sure I'm following all their players. And they started like a minute or two early, but that's all good. Better to be early than late. So a second game has started. Let's focus on Darren Ding versus Kim Stud here. So Kim Stud played last week. I believe for Yale's D team, maybe. I can't remember, but that or his beat. I don't know. I think he switched teams, but Yale's the only school that has 4 teams, so they have a lot of players that they have to juggle and work with. And yeah, Kim Stud's one of their reliable players, which is good. He played in this morning's arena as well. He's about 1,400. Darren here, about 1,500. Darren is Northwestern's 3rd board in this match. So here we see Will taking the knight. No, Will is with the black pieces. So Darren takes the bishop with check, and then his knight gets taken with the bishop. So the bishop and queen were hit by that knight. So giving up the light square bishop to keep the dark square bishop. And now we see the d6 pawn falls. So Kim Stud already down a pawn. The queen and rook were lined up on the d file. And d6 was hanging. So Will finding himself down a pawn early. Okay, so that's also a skewer now. Will is losing material. So this is looking pretty good for Darren. Still waiting on the board 1 from Northwestern. Not sure where they are. But the other 3 games have started, so... Oh, what happened? The exchange was not won. Here, rook over, trade of queens. Interesting. Yeah, so I think white in this position could have taken the rook with check. Rook takes, and only then bishop takes queen. So this was missed by white. So Will kind of getting out of that. Double the rooks, winning a pawn back now. So this game has flipped immediately. White was crushing with the skewer. Will finds rook b8, and Darren not able to see queen takes b8 with check, and only then recapturing the queen. So the position has turned in Will's favor. Now he's winning a pawn here, at least. So he has b takes c2 with check, discovery. King takes c2, rook b2 check, winning g2. He could also give a check on b3, forcing the king up to c4, and then taking on a3, getting him the passed a pawn. And then white has a couple checks of their own. Looks like that's what he's going for. King up, rook takes a3. So the a6 pawn is now passed. White trying to hold on to that g pawn. I would play rook from a to a2, doubling on the second rank. And one of the g or h pawns will fall after that, basically forcing white to trade or get out of the way. Will, with a little bit of time pressure, he's got less than 2 minutes under his opponent's clock. He just simply trades there, gives a rook check. Okay, king over to c5, just walking up. Will bringing his king in. That king going after the a pawn. Rook all the way down to a1. h3. a5. So Will gonna run this pawn. Will does have a doubled pawn, but he's got that passed pawn. So this king is just babysitting the pawn the whole way through, and the rook is eventually going to win this. So the question is, how can Will get material out of this? So he's trying to bring his king in, but perhaps he needed to go towards this way. Okay, so he loses the a pawn. Yeah, he's maybe trying to trade rooks. Oh, white's offering the rook trade. This might just be a draw. I mean, it is an equal position. But yeah, Will push the pawn a little too much without the support of his king. And now the kings meet. White now pushing the pawns. Okay. Something has gone wrong. Will is now down a pawn. They trade, and now white has the lone passed pawn, and it looks like white's winning this. If they know their technique. King e7, king here, and there's no stopping the pawn. So, Will, probably in some time pressure. Here, here, here. This was the mistake, it seems. So you have to move the king somewhere. Either of these moves, I'll draw. So now Will hoping for stalemate. Oh. No mate. Or no stalemate. So Will goes down. That was a very back and forth game. Okay, Varun lost to Flea. Who's this? Jonathan Liu. Okay. Yeah, giving up the exchange back just to get a queen. And here's the last board of this first round. This is Yale's C team's top board. Nico, who is Chris, taking on AJ here from Northwestern. Okay. So Northwestern looking for a new top board for a substitute. In the meantime, the players here will still continue to play. We have AJ down a rook. Against Chris, the top board from Yale. Let me fill in some of the results. So Jonathan got a point and Darren got a point. So Chris gonna find a win here somehow. Don't go to C1. Yep, F1. Pawn's gonna push. Rook's gonna come here and here. King over here. Rook here. Rook here, just promote. Takes and mate. All right, Chris taking a point. So Yale's on the board now, 2-1. But it looks like Northwestern will be. Let's see. Okay. Sorry, I'm adjusting this scoreboard right now. All right, Jonathan and Jose have started the round 2 game. Okay. What is going on here? So bishop trade on e3. White gets the semi-open f file. This knight attacking the bishop. Bishop tucks back to a2. White now expanding in the center, trying to undouble these pawns. Threatening to win a pawn on e5, but then you'd be left with double isolated pawns on the e file. So black could defend this e5 point. Okay, decides to take, so that helps white out a lot. And now rook e8 is played. attacking this pawn. So now rook e1, getting off the f file that's been opened. The rook and the bishop were converge on f7, which is very nice. But instead, white just putting some defense to the e4 pawn. Playing c6. Now the knight is really short on squares. I think white could have played b4, winning a piece. Instead, bringing the queen in, bishop going for a trade. But also, importantly, controlling c4, which was under control by the bishop. Now black has that under control, so the knight is no longer trapped, as they can make use of c4. So white closes this down, plays d5. Bishop d7. Now does b4 work? Can we get away with b4? Okay, b4 is played. So how does black get out of this? Oh, there's queen b6 check with a fork on the pawn. So, yeah, when the pawn was on d4, that wasn't available. So now black misses this. White wins a piece, but is grabbing some pawns in the center. The knight is hit. Expecting knight d4. Jose, 2 pawns for a piece. Queen comes out. Some slight pressure here. Good view of the 5th rank, though. So active queen. This bishop boxing out the knight. So no good forward moves for this knight. Black maybe trying to get in d5. So bishop comes here, opening up the rook a little bit, centralizing the bishop. Queen now attacking the bishop. Bishop can come here or go back, but probably I'm guessing you want to stay on this diagonal, pointing right at the king. Yep. Bishop b3, and now black to move. Perhaps d5 or rook to c8. So d5 is played. I'm thinking white can double up on the d file, try to attack the base point of black's pawn structure in the center. I'm also thinking you can reroute. Oh, the knight's pinned, actually. So moving the king makes a lot of sense as well. Getting out of that pin so that the knight can be moved again. Black can't really take advantage of the pin. Not a good, convenient move for black to make to attack that knight. So both sides about 2.5 minutes left on their clock. White does go to the corner, king h1. So we're actually even in material. It's 3 pawns for a piece. So it should be interesting to see how white can convert the advantage, or if black can hold out and convert the pawns to queens. So rook over to the d file now after white played rook d1. And now the queen gets off the d file, going to e3. Rook over to c8. So now white perhaps looking to trade off here, but the problem is if you take back, this could be a fork potentially, but I think white should have enough pieces covering this d4 square. Now knight here blocking the rook's protection of the queen, so now the knight would have to go here to trade off. But also getting off the c file, which makes a lot of sense. So I'm expecting knight f4 in the future, but knight f5 is really where it's at. I think that's going to be a good move. Okay, queen over to a5 now. Getting away from the queen trade. Okay, knight to g3, not to f4. So instead, looking at f5, there goes a pawn. But knight f5 is looking really good because now both knights can land on f5. And white can get an attack going on that king. Knight f5 also threatens a fork of the rooks on e7. Here we go. So yeah, knight here. You could ignore this or you could take. Queen takes. Knight here. We might need the queen to return. d7, lending some support. And now we might have the rook over to the f file. And we might have a crash on h6, a sacrifice. We could even see a sacrifice on g7, followed by knight back to f5, and then taking on h6. So a lot of opportunities for white with this extra knight. Varun losing to Zarbarents. So Zarbarents is the fill-in for Northwestern. And already paying off, getting a point. So that's good to see. Okay. Knight f5 was played. Rook defends the fork. Queen to g3 threatens mate and the rook. So that was a huge tactic from white. This was a miss from black. Couldn't play rook c7. Needed to bring the queen back to defend, leaving the rooks connected on the back rank. And yeah, so black defends mate, but loses the rook. So now it's a rook for... No, it's a rook and knight for 4 pawns. Very interesting imbalance. Okay, so white trying to find some checkmate or just simplify the position. Black pushing the pawns. Knight check, there's a knight trade, queen takes. There was knight e6, which is tricky, trying to get at this rook. So the knight can come back, defending this pawn, also threatening this. Threatening mate, so probably rook here. But then you take the pawn. So white trying to trade off queens. That pawn is hanging. Jose, low time. This pawn was hanging. This defends the knight. Oh, now queen takes. There's also rook takes. Just attacking the queen. Queen over. You go here, or you could take this. All great. You could also take this. Yep. Rook g7. Block. Queen back. Pawn push. Knight takes. There's queen takes knight. So black getting a little bit of material back, but it doesn't matter. Queen takes pawn. Queen over. Rook up. Queen attacking the rook. Rook attacking the pawn. There's this check. And then that check. And then that's mate. Right here. Yep, and they find it. So Jonathan improving to 2-0. All right, here's Will with less than 10 seconds, but all the material in the world. He's got a queen now. Check. Black not taking the knight. Going for a flag or a stalemate. It's best not to use the knight. So the knight's taken off the board, probably for Will's convenience. Best is to just get another queen, but he's bringing the king in for the goods. And he finds it. Queen c7, mate. Will on the board now. Taking down AJ, the bottom board from Northwestern's B team. Darren taking down Yale's top board. So Darren is also now 2-0. So at half, Northwestern has 5 points. Yale, Jose in the first round should probably have a point for the late player. And Northwestern will also be penalized for emergency substitute player. Here we have a Sicilian. An open Sicilian. We got Kim Stud again. Here we got a Najdorf. Black trying to castle kingside with the Fianchetto. We're going to try to win 2 in a row here. This is Northwestern's substitute player. Okay, king to the corner. Don't want the f-pawn pinned by that light square bishop. Will launching the f-pawn into the attack. Will still could castle either direction. He might just use those kingside pawns to attack here. Maybe launch the h-pawn. It's definitely an idea. Nope, queen up, trying to trade off dark square bishops, getting ready to castle queenside, which makes sense. Black trying to offer a knight trade. Yep, white castles long. So I'm fully expecting bishop h6, h4, h5 at some point. White's attack basically plays itself. Black, meanwhile, having to try to come up with some defense. What they could do is take on d4 and then take on f5, try to win a pawn, which is kind of dangerous. Instead, the knight comes in, attacking that dark square bishop and also controlling h6 and also opening the bishop diagonal on d4. Mechanics chess with a rate of 22. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I hope U.S. Amateur Team West went well. I know you guys had a lot of college students playing in it. Some of our players particularly were playing in it and had to reschedule some of their matches, so I figured we'd send some raids your way to support. So yeah, meanwhile, here at the Collegiate Chess League, we have this match particularly is a Division 3 match, I believe. And it's Yale's C team versus Northwestern's B team. So if you guys are curious about the Collegiate Chess League, we do have a site put up thanks to the Corporate Esports Association. And yeah, we've organized a league of college teams. We have about 570 plus students registered. So this is probably the biggest collegiate chess event ever. I haven't heard or seen a bigger one. I know Pan Am's was held earlier this month actually, and that was a lot of fun. I think that was hosted by the same people doing U.S. Amateur Team West. So yeah, good to see you guys. Hope you're doing well. And yeah, we both are trying to support college chess. That's what it's all about. It's about 50 schools represented and about 90 teams. So this is a long event. This is started earlier this month and will last through April. That's when the finals are set to take place. So we're trying to make a regular season and a postseason and do this every year. This is our second year, and we've had a lot of growth. So this was a blunder here. C5, Will takes on C5, taking advantage of the pin with the queen and rook lined up. This bishop yet to develop. So the queen is only defended once by the rook. So you just can't take the bishop. You're going to have to play this one down a pawn, which is okay. Black could take here, but it's risky. You open up the g5. Wow, bishop takes here. Okay, so now if pawn takes, then we take. Very interesting. I think white should probably take, trade, and then take here again. And then we'll see something open up. I think white probably wants to leave the queens on the board, so we'll see a queen move, perhaps, and then the queen will be hit by the rook. Here, let me give a shout out to Mechanics Chess. Yep, so white takes the bishop. Black pretty much has to take back. Okay, going for the queen trade immediately. Trading off a pair of rooks as well. And now white's going to take here, I presume. Yep, and now you want to take back with the h-file. You want to keep the pawns intact? No. So black takes with the f-file away from the center and now is left with an isolated e-pawn. A6 is snapped off the board. So Kim Stud from Yale up a pawn. Better pawn structure. but less time on his clock. Ooh, AJ took down Varun, so let me update that. AJ with his first point of the day. Varun still looking for his first point. And, yeah, that advances Northwestern's lead. But it's only the third round. Anything can happen. Knight back to c6. Looking at d4 probably. Gonna hit that bishop. Also, bishop takes c3 is a potential idea. Okay, denying the rook trade. Going in to d4. Not giving up the dark square bishop. Bishop c4. Saving the bishop. We might see the rook try to activate along the f-file. Okay, bishop check. King has to move. Deep b1. Will plays it. Less than a minute on his clock. Now e5. Solidifying that knight in the center. Knight now moves with a punch to the rook and the pawn. Oh, did Varun beat AJ? Okay, my bad. Okay, that actually brings it close. I don't know why I read that the wrong way. Darren beat Jose. So Darren now flawless so far. 3 for 3. Okay, we've traded rooks, and Will has won another pawn. And now Will is pushing the outside past a pawn. Bishop now attacking h2. g3, kicking the bishop out. Will continuing the pawn push, getting the majority rolling. a6. So black has a blockade set up on the dark squares. This king attacking the knight. Bishop steps over, defending the knight. Also attacking this knight. So knight comes back, attacking this. Probably just play here. No, that's okay. Trying to play here. Oh, okay, so black does not take the knight, and now a7 hurts because that's going to be a new queen on the board. So black missed that. You could have taken the knight and then taken the pawn. So anyways, trading knights. Black can take a pawn, but, you know, you're down a queen, so just don't give queen check. That would be bad. Queen check here. I think that would have been mate, but okay. Queen check here. Now there's block, but you win the bishop. Okay, a couple pawns taken. You can take that pawn. Black pushing the pawns. Here, let's look at the other board real quick. Ooh, that's a nasty fork. So white should be winning this one. This is Yale's top board. So doing well here for the Yale's team. How's Kim Stud doing? Is he gonna find a mate? He's stopping the pawn. He's gonna play here, and then that's covering the mate though. So that and that should be the end of it. Luckily, black has a pawn to push. Even if he didn't, the king moves. Yep, and that's mate. Well done by Kim. Kim Stud getting a point. So now here's top board. Chris versus Jonathan. The second board from Northwestern. Both players less than 10 seconds on the clock. Blunders can be abound. Oh man, this queen and rook and bishop. White is just crushing here. So black gives up the queen. Queen here or there. Mate either way. Well done by Nico. So top 2 boards for Yale, both at 2 points apiece. Bringing it back with an even. But Northwestern has a penalty point for the last minute substitute player. So Yale technically with the lead. So here we got Varun against Darren. Now, Darren is 3 for 3 on Northwestern's third board. So Darren's been playing some good chess, taking down all 3 Yale's players so far up until this point. But he hasn't played Varun yet. So Varun could have a big game here. Pressure along the knight. If you bring the queen up, knight hits hard here. Yep, this is going to be played. That was a mistake from black. I think better was you just castle, get out of the pen. Instead, you walk right into it. So Darren not making the best of moves, having to retreat the queen now. And now Varun can win a pawn. Could also take here if he wants. So Varun going over his options in a good position. Very good spot to be in. A lot of time left on the clock too. You can take your time here. But I think simply just trading is probably best. Could even castle if you wanted to. Got a lot of time. It's going to be a while before black could really ever resolve this. I don't know if they could. So goes for knight takes. Wants to take with the bishop with check. Knight to d7 block if black is trying to stay able to castle. But you can't castle right now because that knight is just there. So white could trade down. But then after you get the queens off the board, that kind of alleviates the stress from black's position. If you don't trade, that bishop is just pinning that knight, preventing the king from castling, which is very annoying. So black would probably try to play like, okay, well now bringing the queen off the diagonal allows black to castle, and they do. And the b2 pawn is hanging now that the b file has opened. But Varun right now is up 2 pawns. Takes the knight, queen takes, and now white takes another pawn, but is going to lose b2. The knight was hit by the bishop and the rook, so white could have castled there. White could have castled. Now that the knight is on d2, now you can't castle because the rook is hitting that pawn. And now a2 is hit, so the pawn is pushed. So black is getting some compensation here with that rook on b2. I think white could have taken a step to protect b2, maybe like b3 or b4, and not allow black to get all this counterplay. So rook steps up, hitting the bishop, Bishop's going to have to drop back, perhaps to e5 or f4 or g3. Okay, so e5 definitely one of the more active options. Rook's now doubled on the b file. The a pawn can keep pushing. So white not able to castle because you don't want to hang a piece, but the king could step up. You don't really need the castle. So rook over to c2, preparing rook from b to b2. Does white continue the push of the pawns? I would be curious to see. I feel like a6, you cannot play rook b to b2. Just couldn't do it. You'd have to play rook a7 because you don't want to allow a7. So white bringing the king up. Okay, keeping a6 in the back pocket. But now the knight is pinned, and yeah, rook b to b2. I don't know if you could push a6 at that point because rook takes d2 with check is going to be too much. So, okay. Black just takes a pawn there, but that's a little slow. Okay, there's a bishop check. There's king f3. And now rook a7. Ah, the bishop check is a fork on the king and the pawn. So now how do you defend that pawn? So this could be in black's favor. Bishop attacks the rook, but simply rook takes. Rook takes. Bishop takes. And now rook a1. There's always rook c6. There's also rook a3. And yeah, this position is now just equal. Black maybe a little bit better with the bishop pair. Pawn structure is identical. Rook activity, maybe the black rook is a little bit better. But if the bishop moves, white could get to the back rank. Unless you go here. So I'm looking at this. No, bishop comes back here trying to be active. Now, there's rook a8. No idea if that's good. You're threatening bishop here. Oh, bishop here right away does not work because the bishop can take and retreat to f8, blocking this. So white trying to be fancy, but the tactic does not work. There's bishop f8 at the end of that. Varun missed it and is now down a pawn. I mean a bishop. But not good for Varun. Not good. Hoping for the back rank mate, instead giving up a bishop. Down on time as well. A flight square for the king. The king will enter, allowing the bishop to move. I'm going here with this threat. That's looking good to me. So both sides tied at 6. They're trying to get the next 2.5 points to win the match. First team to 8.5 wins. Okay, going for bishop f6 check. Also just attacking the knight. Knight's going to have to drop back to f3. Or you got to save the knight like this. So the knight goes back. And now, yeah, rook c6 was probably lights out. I don't see how you stop this. The pawn's hanging, and it's going to hang. You could attack this bishop. So yeah, knight back with the fork. So you could trade this off. You could also just save this pawn. Okay, now rook attacking this bishop. There's a check. King back. So Northwestern's penalty brings them to 5. So they're going to need 3.5 points. Well, yeah, I think they're going to need 3.5 out of the 4. So it can't finish 7.5, 7.5, unless you're saying so. Like if it finishes 8.5 to 7.5, which is possible. Like if Northwestern gets 2.5 and Yale gets 1.5, then because of the penalty, it'll go to tiebreak. It'll go to the tiebreak match. Okay, Black just drops the bishop now. But should still be winning. Black playing very fast here. Okay, Jonathan beating Kim Stud, so improving to 3 out of 4. There's a point for Northwestern now. Still keep an eye on this one. This one has gotten a little closer than it could have been. Okay, G4 is crushing. G4, king here. Bishop check, king here. Rook here. No, just bishop takes, threatening that with the fork. So bishop takes, king takes. There's a fork, but now the bishop's hanging. Wow. Okay. This game has just evened out. Black had such an advantage and played so fast. The knight escapes. Both players very low. This is a big threat. Okay, pinning the knight. King here. Attacking the bishop. Oh, check first. Oh, I don't know if I like that. Now you got to go here, right? And now there's rook takes. Rook takes, king takes. But black has this inside position with the king. You're going to have to bring the king back. Yep. Pawn push. H3 is played. King over. Yeah, this is a draw. King here. No. Oh. King here now. King here. What you doing? What you doing? Okay. That's a stalemate. So if you go, okay, yeah. White has turtled up here in this defensive pawn shell. And there he will remain. So that looks like it's going to be a draw. So we might actually see overtime. We have a draw between Darren and Varun. So Darren going undefeated, 3.5 out of 4. And so yeah, if these last 2 games are split 1 point each, then it will go to overtime. Oh, and Yale gets 3 there from their top board, beating the substitute player from Northwestern. So now it all comes down to this. And how is it looking? Oh, there's going to be a queen on the board. No, the bishop stops it. White should win, but it's complicated. There's going to be a queen on h1. No, take. Okay, here there's a check now. No, it takes. Okay. So white is up 2 pawns to none. But they both have queens on the board, and they both have like little time, very little time. So AJ yet to get any points yet in this match. Jose with only the 1 point from the forfeit game in round 1. So neither player having yet won an actual game. But Jose has a point. So we see a lot of queen checks. You're going to have to push these pawns. You do not want to draw. Actually, a draw wins it for Yale. So maybe you do go for repetition. The score would have been 8-8, but the penalty point would give Yale the win. So lots of checks. Ooh. Black has to be careful not to get skewered. So now pushing the pawn. Walking this pawn up. Yep, walking the pawn. Queen trying to go for checks. Yep, there's a check. Got to move the king. 4, 3. AJ maybe looking for a perpetual of their own. Unfortunately, a draw loses it, so he would have to find a win here. If white just slips the queen. So walking the king up. There's block with check. Yes. Yep. Now king here. Save the pawn. No. No, why would you... you just push the pawn. Oh, king here. King here. Oh, okay. Okay, so Jose now with the queen all alone. This should be it. Yale will get the 8.5 to 7.5 win. So luckily the penalty point won't really count for much, assuming there's no stalemate. King f6, queen g7, GG, match over. So Jose getting the dub for Yale's C team. 8.5 to 7.5. Final score would be 8.5 to 6.5. So Yale gets the job done. Northwestern, very close, but not enough. Maybe if their top board was playing, it would have been different. But, with the players they had, it was a close match. Yeah, white won. This was Jose. The white pieces. Jose from Yale's C team, the bottom board. So, yeah, that was a close match. That was fun.